Rishi Sunak has tonight vowed to do whatever is necessary to end the small boats crisis and take back control of Britain's borders. The PM warned the government would use every tool at its disposal to clamp down on the thousands who make the perilous journey across the Channel every single year. A landmark new law will ban illegal migrants from claiming asylum on human rights grounds and give Parliament the power to set an annual cap on the number of refugees accepted. Sunak called the approach tough, but necessary and fair.
If we do not deal with it now, the situation will just get worse and worse. People must know that if they come here illegally, it will result in their detention and swift removal. Once this happens, and they know it will happen, they will not come and the boats will stop.
Earlier in the Commons, the Home Secretary warned the asylum system is overwhelmed, calling the need for reform obvious and urgent. The new legislation risks a major clash with the European Convention on Human Rights, but Suella Braverman says she's up for the fight.
To anyone proposing de facto open borders through unlimited safe and legal routes as the alternative, let's be honest, there are 100 million people around the world who could qualify for protection under our current laws. The British people are famously a fair and patient people. But their sense of fair play has been tested beyond its limits, and they've seen the country taken for a ride. Their patience has run out. The law-abiding, patriotic majority have said, enough is enough.
The UN Refugee Agency tonight says it is profoundly concerned by the bill, claiming it amounts to an asylum ban. The problem is, though, I think Suella Braverman actually made her career tonight and today in the House of Commons, because whether you think that this is something that we should be entertaining, whether you think that some of the people who are coming here deserve to come, it is overwhelming, it is ridiculous. We've gone from 300 people coming in, 4 or 5 years ago, to now an estimated 80,000 coming. So, I mean, it's gone up by a factor of 10 in 3 years. There's clearly exploitation going on in all sorts of ways, and the bottom line is it needs to stop. I don't know whether this is going to be the answer. I hope that it is in some way, shape or form. But clearly, you know, it can't continue the way it is, because in the end, you know, this country will simply be unable to cope.
I think it's really fascinating, this, because it's a huge political priority for the government. They know it. Now, in London, people may not be concerned, but you go to some of the coastal towns, they're really, really angry and upset about what's happening. As you rightly say, Mike, we've gone from 45,000 migrants last year to an estimated 88,000. The impact on those towns, so hotels being requisitioned, for example, people being afraid to go out at night. My big worry about this, I think it's tough talk. I think it's platitudes. I think it's political posturing. What is interesting from my political point of view is they've pretty much nicked Reform UK's policy. The only thing that they haven't done is to leave the ECHR. Now, the question is, can they actually do this under British law? And even Suella Braverman has sort of said, well, actually, we think on balance we possibly might. I think the answer probably is to leave the ECHR. That question was asked in the House of Commons earlier, and I think maybe the government will have to do a volte-face later. But it's tough talk. Let's see if it works.
Are we not in this parallel universe, though, where the Home Secretary, who, correct me if I'm wrong, is in charge of the police force and law and order, is saying, I'm not actually sure if what I'm doing breaks the law, but I'm going to do it anyway?
Well, I think the point about the law is that it's untested law, because there are plenty of countries in Europe, for example, who are still in the ECHR, who are able to control their immigration a lot easier than we are. And so I don't know why people keep thinking it's actually the ECHR
Well, I think it's partly because of our interpretation of the law.
Exactly.
So
law can be interpreted. So when you say, I mean, it's OK to say, well, she should really know the law, but that's why people go to court, because everybody knows the law, but sometimes you have to test it, and sometimes you have to see whether you can do one thing rather than another.
And again, please tell me, because I feel like I'm going crazy, what makes people think that she'll be able to process people being deported either to Rwanda, which can only hold 400 in a year, or a third country that she hasn't mentioned yet or hasn't been agreed upon? But they are failing currently to even process people in this country.
And I think this is where the whole thing will unravel, frankly. I mean, this whole thing is so multi-layered. We discuss it all the time, this issue. I mean, everything from even you know, are you illegal if you come over this? Well, according to most lawyers you speak to, actually, it's not illegal. So if I turned up in France tomorrow without a passport, that'd be illegal. But if I said I'm claiming asylum when I got there, I cease to be illegal. Nonetheless...
But that's also a question which is up for grabs.
Untested,
You say
yeah.
most laws, actually not true, because a lot
Not
of
all
lawyers I talk
lawyers,
to
yeah.
will say it is illegal.
It is illegal. So there's all these discrepancies there. But actually, I think the point that Nicola's just made kind of is where this whole thing will unravel, because you can be as... One of the problems with and they are the architect of their own downfall here, really, because whatever they've...
And there's no question that they have broken...
They've created, they've funneled everything.
Yeah.
So your only option is this channel thing. What's going to happen? The optics are so bad, even if the numbers were the same before they were coming across the channel, the optics of seeing people in boats rowing over, essentially, to join your... It just looks all shades of wrong, it's dangerous, it's unfair, blah, blah, blah. The optics will be just or even worse when you have a massive 10-acre field with barracks of 5,000 blokes in a guarded pen waiting to be deported, and nobody can, because those same lawyers that we talk about will be on the case.
The problem is that the UK hasn't focused on or isn't focusing enough on creating safe and legal routes, so people don't feel that they have to go down the route of working with people smugglers, of paying thousands of pounds to take these ridiculous and highly dangerous routes. And what we need to do is cut off the people smugglers at source. Now, they say that, you know, this will act as a deterrent, the same way that Rwanda was supposed to act as a deterrent. But it won't, because people smugglers will just smuggle them somewhere else.
But
the thing is, without creating more safe and legal routes,
I agree with you.
then this problem's just
No, I
going to
disagree
continue.
completely, because I think the world has changed. You know, since the asylum laws were written, you know, things have changed around the world. People want to move. They've taken the view that, well, why should we stay where we are if we can go somewhere else? I think everybody accepts that most of the people who are coming here are coming to try and make a better life for themselves.
Well, we
now,
know 30%.
some of them may be coming for nefarious purposes, but the vast majority of them are not necessarily fleeing a war zone. They are actually coming here to make a better life. And that's fair enough, but let's get away from the idea that the nasty, horrible, evil Tories are kicking people out, because actually, back in the day when Tony Blair was Prime Minister in 2008, we repatriated 50,000 people who had come here illegally. So we could do it then, we just can't do it now.
But focusing on the UK's compassion, and, you know, so often these politicians will say we have a proud history of welcoming refugees. It was put to Suella Braverman recently. The question was asked, if I was coming from an African country, what would my safe route actually be? And I think we've got a clip here of what her answer actually was.
Well, we have an asylum system, and people can put in applications for asylum.
How would I do that?
Well, you can do it through the safe and legal routes that we have.
What scheme's open to me?
Well, if you are able to get to the UK, you are able to put in an application for asylum.
But I would only enter the UK illegally then, wouldn't I?
Well, that would, if you put in your application for asylum upon arrival, that would be the process that you enter.
How could I arrive in the UK if I didn't have permission to get onto an aircraft legally to arrive in the UK?
Let me just invite other colleagues if there's anything they want to add.
But
She hasn't got a clue what you're talking about.
And you're absolutely right. But you're absolutely right.
how
Like
messed up the system is.
But you're absolutely right. Like Ian said, they're architects of their own downfall.
Yeah.
Because the rhetoric is empty. There's no systems in place to actually make it work. You're absolutely right in saying that, you know, we think you can sort of round these people up really quickly and deport them. But you can't do the applications, you can't process the applications for asylum. What makes you think you're going to be able to process the applications for deportation in the first place?
Well,
like, the whole system is completely broken.
It's knackered. The world has changed. People move around the world for different reasons now. They're able to do so. There are more families here who have relatives who want to come in than there were when the asylum rules were set in place. You know, and the fact is that if you've got a Home Office which basically processes one application per week. Per Home Office employee. I mean, you're going to be doing this for about...
But we've just let in
120,000
120,000 people from Hong Kong?
Yeah.
So they're the acceptable migrants.
Hang on a minute, let's just be very clear about this, because the majority, or 35%, say, are coming from Albania, not a war-torn country, waiting for EU accession, and you can come here on a visa. They're economic migrants, they need to go back, they need to be deported. Lots of questions remain. Where are you going to keep all these people? Because they haven't sorted that out. They haven't sorted out the safe and legal routes. I'm really intrigued why you don't think we should leave the ECHR. Obviously, it started in 1950.
I'm not saying we shouldn't leave it. I'm just saying it's not necessary to leave it in order to make your own laws work in your own country. Because Sweden do that, and so did Germany.
But also, then the issue is, does the British Bill of Rights have supremacy in law, and what will happen in the courts?
Well, the answer to that is we don't know.
We don't know.
And therefore, I think what you need is a government that's got a tough enough policy to make it work.
Correct.
You know, it's as simple as that.
Isn't the problem with this is that everything she announced today is not going to happen tomorrow or next month.
No.
So this is a very lengthy process. We've got a general election looming in the next 18 months. The Labour Party will be the chief recipients of all of this chip and hassle. They'll have to adopt a policy. I don't think it will see the light of day.
But what is their policy?
No, what Keir Starmer said earlier in the
one.
week in an interview was that he was going to beef up the NCA's involvement and the funding into that. And actually, Rishi Sunak's got a meeting on Friday, I believe, with the French... Yeah, with Macron.
Yeah.
And that seems to me to be the only sensible answer, is if you want to stop people smugglers, you cut them off at source and you work with the French to stop them from operating from French shores to British shores.
They keep trying. I mean, I don't know how much money...
Yeah, but that's like saying, well, just go after the drug dealers and stop cocaine coming into the country. You're never going to do it.
Yeah, but you're also never going to do it by saying to people, stop taking cocaine. If you made cocaine legal, then you would stop the black market.
No, you wouldn't. Rubbish.
Exactly.
They've made marijuana legal in America, and the drug dealers just
but then you could tax it. If we allowed asylum seekers to work in the country and if we process them, then they can pay back into the system.
Exactly.
It's bull. It's
It's bull. It's
What
bull.
are
It's
they
David
saying?
Bull.
They can't say the last bit of the word.
What are they dealing now?
Well, they're now dealing artificial heroin, which they're selling from... They worked out from Mexico.
How did we get
This is very
More
substantial.
people are dying, and actually it's now worse in America than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So legalisation ain't the answer. Anyway, never mind that.